What secrets do you keep, even from your closest friends and companions, or even family? In all of the smash of the Horus Heresy and the Space Marines, do you wish for a more knightly order? Someone cleaving to the blade, perhaps? These are all tenets of the Dark Angels. Today's, by request, we got the Dark Angels coming up today on the show. We'll, of course, go through some lore. Not gonna lie, kind of one of my blind spots, the Dark Angels. I had to read up on some of their stuff, and I had to contact two of my friends, the Black Library, Rob Rizal, as always, and then my other friend, Jeff Hilton, very competitive player of 40K, real good dude. He is actually requested the Dark Angels because he's a Dark Angels player, and I'm trying to convince him to play Horus Heresy, so here we go. You know, just putting the loud part quiet and the quiet part loud there. But no, the Dark Angels are great. One of the coolest color schemes, black and red. Really, really good kit that they've got, actually. I think one of the best kits in the book, truth be told. But we'll get into all that, and I've got two special characters made for you today. But yeah, we'll get into the list building. We'll get into all that in 1 second. We're gonna go into the what's on your hobby table here today. Please comment, you know, like and comment always if you get a chance. But I love to see what you guys are working on. I've got the last of the knights almost together. I built a dual Avenger Gatling cannon one. You know, I really like them without the armor. One day I kind of want to make one just, you know, either with the armor broken off into pieces or just like completely stripped like that. I think they look really cool. Yeah, working on the knights, they're almost finished. Looking at the salamanders, the Alpha Legion that I've got going. Digging, and also I've got some Sigmar models to finish. Oh, and something that's really cool is I'm actually got invited to a Mordheim campaign. You know, it's been out of print for almost like 20 years, but all the rules are there. There's like a really nice online community that kept up with it. So I might actually start doing like a Mordheim Monday show every now and then to kind of talk about the campaign we're in. And, you know, God, it's like a, you know, probably the most niche category in the world. But if you're ever interested in Mordheim, I'll start talking some Mordheim. Besides that, just plugging along, still sober, still working on a hobby. That's how we do it here at 5 Up Recovery. Got my beverage, my night coffee. No judgment on your beverage of your own. You know, we don't make judgments here. Grab yourself a hobby knife, grab yourself a paintbrush, and let's get into the Dark Angels. Dark Angels are Dark Angels are kind of like the like polar opposite of the Alpha Legion I've looked at, where they're both secretive, and it's kind of questionable if they're loyalist or traitor, depending on, like, you know, like who you ask and which specific faction within the faction, you know. Whereas the Alpha Legions are kind of like the most modern combined force military, you know, with very modern warfare at their core. The Dark Angels are like old school medieval, you know, knights and shields, classic, you know, cleave to the blade kind of play style and models and stuff like that. So, you know, it's kind of like opposite ends, the 1st and the 20th Legion. It's kind of cool. Of course, I'm biased because I'm an Alpha Legion player, but the secretiveness of them was inviting to me, and kind of the aloofness. The Lion grew up on Caliban, which was like a planet that was plagued by like horrible monsters and like giant, you know, like almost like Beowulf's story, you know what I mean? Classic knightly orders fighting these giant beasts and slaying them and this, that, the other. Actually, the first two Horus Heresy books about the Dark Angels are more about pre-heresy. It's like the Lion coming up on Caliban, and just kind of the nature of the Legion as the Horus Heresy breaks out, because there's like that splinter within the Legion of, you know, the Fallen, who of course have gone traitor, but versus the loyalist Dark Angel. They kind of had their own miniature heresy with it, not heresy, but their own miniature rebellion within their own Legion, which is really interesting. Like I said, I'm not very well versed on them. The one book I've read, Unremembered Empire, when the Lion shows up, and he shows up on Guilliman's planet in Ultramar, and literally has an entire drop pod assault planned and ready just in case, you know, things go south. So it's like, even against like his, like, you know, close trusted brother who was also loyalist during this like horrible, you know, Horus Heresy, he still was like ready to go. You know, had his blades up behind his back and stuff like that. Descent of Angels is a good book for the heresy. Ruinstorm is another one. Fallen Angels and Angels of Caliban. Lots of angels up in there, you know, go figure. All of those have been recommended to me by Rob and Jeff as excellent books for the Dark Angels. And there's a slew of short stories as well. And of course the Primarch book. Everyone's got a Primarch book, so that's good, easy recommend. But yeah, that's like I said, I'm not too well versed on the lore. If you guys have some cool tidbits or you've got some favorite moments, go ahead and put them in the comments section there. You know, I'd love to learn more, and that's what this whole thing's about. But why don't we jump into the Dark Angels kit, because it's one of the most I don't want to say prolific. It's got a lot going on in it. They have the most detachments out of everybody. Usually, like, you'll get like one detachment, maybe two, maybe an apex and auxiliary for your legion. They have six of them to represent the different wings. So they used to have a right of war for each wing. Now they have a detachment for each wing, and all of these have prime slots in them. And like, let's be honest, the entire point of this show is to kind of like recommend or do cool things with the prime slots. And this, letting you have prime slots in almost every single one of your detachments, I think it's one of the most powerful armies out there, honestly. But let's get started. First of all, for their armory, they have Calibanite warblades and Tyrannic greatswords. I don't want to bog down too much on the stats and whatnot. You got the book. Essentially, the warblade is a power axe attacking at initiative. And the warblade is a 2 damage, strength +2 weapon that's got breaching 5 up and is only at -1. So it's not quite the AP punch through of a power fist or a thunderhammer, but it's less of an initiative problem, and it's got breaching 5 up to push that AP2 through. They also have plasma burners and plasma incinerators. They are plasma weapons with templates. They are horrifying. They're plasma flamers, essentially, with breaching. You can crack them into overload mode and things like that. I've been on the receiving end of them. They are terrifying. They will, you know, they'll eat Space Marines for breakfast, and they'll even start punching through on Terminators with that heavy breaching. They're very good, and the special units both get them. Excuse me, 2 of the special units get them. Finally, the prime slot advantage they get is the Paladin of the Hecatonista. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you know what I mean? I'm not even going to try and say that word one more time. I feel like I just got it. But this can increase 1 model in the unit. So you could give this prime upgrade to a single HQ, or you could take and give this to a sergeant or master's. You know, you can pretty much replace the master sergeant with this. You get +1 to your weapon skill. You replace your bolter with a Tyrannic greatsword. That's very good. And you get the Order of the Hecatonistica, which is something the paladins get. Essentially, they I don't want to go into all of them, but they get to pick like 6 of these special attacks. Some are good against monsters, some are good against vehicles, some are good against characters, you know. Then when you're doing your character creation, you pick one that they have, and that they get that for. It's not like you choose the beginning of the battle. It's like once you've made your list, you've chosen it for them. But they're all good. They all just a bonus. But yeah, that's the armory. The Legion Tactica is really cool. Negative modifiers to the leadership, so effectively, your leadership can never drop below 6. So even if you lose a battle, I didn't realize how cool this was, but if you lost a fight by like 5, and or like, you know, say you lost by 8, and you would be like only going on double 1s, well, it stops at 6. So your leadership will get capped at 6 no matter what. So you're always gonna be able to make those, you always have a better chance of passing your break tests or your panic tests in combat. It also limits fear. Fear can only affect you by 1. So even if someone had fear 2 or fear 3, it would only hit you at fear 1. So it's good. They keep their cool together. Someone said it really well. My buddy James, who plays Iron Warriors and Dark Angels, he said Iron Warriors ignore status effects in shooting, and Dark Angels ignore it in close combat. And I thought that was a good way of putting it. Their gambit is pretty cool. Sword of the Order. You give up an attack to gain critical hits on your weapon. It has to be a sword of some sort. So power sword, Calibanite Warblade, Tyrannic Greatsword, Paragon Blade. Quite a few options actually in there. Even a chainsword, you know, if you just want to throw it on a Master Sergeant or something like that, and just, you know, really like Leroy Jenkins with the guy. But any sword can do it. You lose an attack, you get critical hits 6-up, and if you already had critical hits, it increases by 1. I think that's something that like really helps that core swing or something like that. Their advanced reaction lets you repeat the fight phase. You know, fantastic. It's once per battle, but you know, you get down to initiative step 1, you've gone through all the initiative steps, and you just re-rack it. You start over, you ignore all of the combat resolution points that have been made in the combat itself. You still keep the challenge if the challenge happened, but yeah, the combat, you ignore the combat resolutions, clear the board, and just start the combat over again. So if you've got, you know, if you lost a combat, kick it, you know what I mean? Turn it on, you might be able to win back on the return. Or if you just have a unit like locked in and you're like, hey, I just need, you know, I need to destroy this unit immediately so that I can consolidate or something like that. You know, just there's a million reasons that you'd want to repeat the fight phase, especially if, you know, you lean towards being really good in the fight phase with your crazy swords. So looks great. Cut print, that's a fantastic advanced reaction, one of my favorites, and very flavorful. All right, let's break it down to the different wings and the different detachments, because this is where it gets really cool. I'll try and go through these kind of quick because there's a lot of them. The first up is the Iron Wing. Iron Wing would be like their armored wing. This lets you take 2 heavy transports and 2 armors in one detachment. Fantastic. You don't have to split between the armored support and the armored fist. You got what you need right there. There's no transports, but you already have plenty of transport spots, let's be real. That's the only one that doesn't have a prime slot, but vehicles really can't benefit from prime slots, so you know, that's neither here nor there. Next up is the Dreadwing. The Dreadwing is 3 full support slots, one of which is prime, and they have to either take Rapier Carriers or the Dreadwing Interrupters, which is a special unit that they've got. We'll go through. Crazy powerful, you know what I mean? You don't have to take that thing with a couple of troops and a couple of support. You just get 3. Really good for your Rapier batteries, really good for your Dreadwing Interrupters. They get those plasma flamers. They're very scary. The Stormwing Muster is your kind of like their troop-driven one. You get 2 transports and you get 2 troop slots, and both are prime. So this is just like is better than your Crusade detachment, where one of your prime slots. So if you're going heavy troops, I would suggest taking one of them in your Crusade slot to get that first prime slot, and then taking this auxiliary because your other 2 troops will also get prime slots. You can also give, I don't think you can double up on prime slots within a detachment, but you can within the army. So you can give Master Sergeant to 2 of them. You could get, you know, you can really split it up. It's a lot of fun. I'm kind of crazy with making Master Sergeants with swords and stuff like that. So it was like everybody could take a challenge, you know. Stormwing's pretty cool, I think. The Deathwing. Deathwing. This is why I think this is the most powerful Legion, and this is you know, total 100% opinion. You know, draw your own conclusions. This is not a competitive. You know, this is mostly a narrative jam. But the Deathwing is retinue, elite, and shock assault, all in an auxiliary detachment, and the retinue is prime. There is no way to get elites or retinues outside of their special Apex detachments or logistical benefit that I've seen in this game, except for the very, very few detachments that give them to you. This is an auxiliary detachment. You could slam 3 of these. You could take this multiple times in your list, and you're going to get that prime slot retinue, which is phenomenal. It's just some of the best units in the game, and being able to make them even better. Elite slot right there without having to dip into your Apex detachments, and shock assault, which is always helpful. This is, you know, supposed to represent the Deathwing, you know, the kind of their heavy first company Terminators, but it's not limited to what you can take in the slots, so that is just a win across the board. I definitely took one, and it freed up my Apex detachment to take the HQ, which I've never done before, to get another prime slot HQ. So just stacks of prime slots in these lists. The Raven Wing, which is a big popular one, gets 2 fast attack slots, one of which is prime, and 2 recon slots, which can only be used to take Outriders. So this is totally supposed to be your jet bikes and your motorcycles, you know, which is the Raven Wing's jam. And finally, there's the Fire Wing Echelon. This is kind of like your sneaky detachment. They can take 2 recons, one of which is prime, and they can take 2 elites, once again sneaking elites into an auxiliary detachment, but they have to be seekers, which is fine because seekers are one of the best units in the book as it is. So there you go. There's 2 different auxiliary detachments where you can fit elites in, you know, you can make the most elite Dark Angels list possible. They have the most, you know, detachments are kind of like puzzle pieces. They're puzzle pieces that you get to fit around your units to make your army, right? They have the best puzzle pieces in the game, hands down. Each of these is just markedly better than the generic ones, and they all have a prime slot in them, except for the tank heavy one. But yeah, Dark Angels player, you got a really nice kit. Very impressed. Last but not least, the units that they've got. We'll kind of go through these quick. I know I try not to bog you down on the numbers too much because it's just me sitting here talking numbers at you and stuff. So I'm kind of gonna more go for vibes. Still mentioning, you know, special things like Vanguard and all that good stuff. Deathwing companions are a retinue slot, which you could make prime with your Deathwing. 3 attacks, weapon skill 5. You know, the elites, they've got a 2-up save like most retinue. These guys all come with Warblades, but then anybody can replace that with a Power Fist or a Tyrannic Greatsword. Just across the board, great unit. They also have these Scytherion pattern Aegis. They get shields that give them a 5-up invuln, and if you can use the shield reaction on them, even if not all of them have the Aegis. I think if half of them have it, you can use the shield reaction, which is pretty good. The Dreadwing Interrupters I already talked about. These are a bitter duty support unit. So that's crazy. There's very few bitter duty units in the game. They have the Plasma Flamers. One of them can take a destroyer missile launcher for every 5, or a plasma incinerator. So they can either get the heavy plasma flamer, or they can get a missile launcher with rad and stasis missiles. One of them's got phage, one of them's got stun. You don't want to be on the receiving end of either of them. Interrupters are a great unit. I think you could get away with a lot of, like, you know, small squads and rhinos of them, like little pops of 5. I did a big unit of 10, because I love myself my big units. But lots of play with the Dreadwing Interrupters. They are support units, so they score fewer points, but they are going to kill anything that you want to throw them at. Finally, the Inner Circle Knights Cenobium. They are your Cataphracti Terminator kit with a Plasma Caster, so a Plasma Flamer, and a Tyrannic Greatsword. So, you know, the 2 heavy versions of your weapons they get. They get the whole Order of the Hecatonistica thing. Hecatonistica. They get to pick one of those like 6 special abilities that make them better at fighting a specific unit across the board. They've got the Plasma Casters, which are actually, which are Plasma Flamers. Just across the board, a great unit. They are, an elite unit. The Interrupters are definitely going to be a support unit. The Deathwing companions are retinue, and then these are elites for the Cenobium. So they're not shock assault. They are elites, but you got plenty of space to fit them. So we'll break down the list for you real quick and my characters. I know I was kind of already talking about the list a little bit. I was getting excited. The main thing I did here was that I took my Apex detachment, was the officer cadre. I'm just mispronouncing words all over the place today, guys. But anyways, the officer Apex detachment. So I got 2 of my heroes have prime slots in this. And let's just start breaking down the list. We'll open up with the Crusade detachment. I took a Praetor in Cataphracti armor with a Tyrannic Greatsword. He's definitely going to be popping in with the Cenobium Terminators. I took a Chaplain with the Crozius Arcanum and Meltabombs. I pretty much take Meltabombs anytime I can. You never know when you're going to come across a tank or a knight, and Meltabombs are going to tear down knights, let me tell you. As a knight player, I'm scared of them. But I took the Chaplain. I went kind of like, tried to go like what would be in like this, the Arthur's, the Circle of Knights, King Arthur's Circle, So I took a Chaplain, I took a Champion, and I took a Herald. All of them seem to be, honorable, proud frontline fighters of the Legion. So my Legion Champion is my first prime slot, Paragon of Battle. This is Tarek Minarth. Tarek Minarth has a Paragon Blade with Paragon of Battle, so he's weapon skill 7. He's like swinging almost as hard. He's swinging as skillfully as most Primarchs. He's a little badass there. And then I'm going to jump to the Apex detachment because it's just one more hero. I got the hero, my Herald with a Tyrannic Greatsword. Excuse me. Also Paragon of Battle. I really want these guys to be messing stuff up in close combat. So he's going to join the companions, but his name his name is Karth Varen. Karth Varen. You know, the Herald can take challenges. The Champion wants to take challenges. You got a Praetor in there. You and the Chaplain. I kind of just stick in with the Herald, and the Chaplain's just keeping the 100% their cool, their status effects off, and the Herald is there taking challenges, trying to get some extra VP. Those are my heroes. In the Crusade detachment, I also took a 10-man tactical squad, you know, with the Vox. And I actually did upgrade this with Master Sergeant, and I gave the guy, I believe, a Carbonite Warblade. So that even that tactical squad, there's like a little scary two attack sword in there, you know what I mean? So, and he can still challenge, you know. Like I said, we're going Leroy Jenkins with that guy. 2 Rhinos in there, one for the tactical squad, one for the Dread Interrupters. I took the Iron Wing Gauntlet with a Land Raider carrier and a Spartan to take my Terminators and my companions. And then I took 2 Predators. I'm trying to add more long-range anti-tank in all my lists. I know it's a big blind spot. So these are both set up the same way. They've got the Magna Melta cannon on top, pintle-mounted multi-melta, and twin sponson las cannons. They just want to drive up and try and get as close as possible while firing a bunch of high-strength, high-damage attacks. And, you know, they're Predators. They're 165, so some of the best weapons on there, so they're cheap, you know. If they go down, they go down. Next up, I took the Dread Wing, which is the support with a prime slot. I took a 10-man Dreadwing Interrupter squad, which is going to go into one of those Rhinos. They are a prime slot with combat veterans. They're going to be going and kind of like shooting off on their own, doing, you know, kind of like, you know, side flank attacks and things like that. So I figure they're not going to have any support for a hero, so it'd be a good idea to kind of cushion them a little bit against that. I also took a Rapier battery, just 2 Rapier carriers with the crew and the laser destroyers. So I figure between that, the tanks, the Predators, and these Land Raiders, we've got a lot of las cannon fire and melta fire. Last but not least, I took, of course, the Dreadwing, the Deathwing. The Deathwing with the Retinue, Elite, and Shock Assault. Everything you want. I spent a lot of points here. I think it's like 840 points of my list. I took a 10-man Deathwing companion unit. 3 of them have Tyrannic Greatswords. 3 of them have Power Fists. The rest have Carbonite Warblades. It's like a 455-point unit. They will be able to fight anything in the game, just about. One of the, you know, maybe Justerans will edge them out a little bit, and Primarchs will, you know, have a time with them, but that is one of the best melee units in the game, I think. Finally, I also took 7 of the Inner Circle Cenobium, the Terminators. I went with 5 and then just, you know, popped up and padded out my list with the other 2. They're going to go with the Praetor and probably the Champion, so that the Champion can take challenges and the Praetor can attack the squad. And then my other 2 characters, my Herald and my Chaplain, are going to go with the Deathwing Companion squad. So that's the list. You know, it's big units. It actually has some long-range anti-tank fire. It's missing a lot of DACA, but you just want to be tearing people up in close combat. That's kind of your, you know, that's how you deal with Space Marines and such. Looks like it'd be a lot of fun. I played against a couple Dark Angels players. There it is. I played against a couple of Dark Angels players. Gorgeous models, you know, just a kind of the, you know, the classic Warhammer, where fantasy meets sci-fi. That's kind of the Dark Angels are almost like the king of that. With that, you know, like Inner Circle Knights, Knights of the Round Table. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Jeez. Very nice of the round table across the board for your Space Marines. So yeah, that's the list. Thanks for watching for this long, everybody. You know, if you get a chance to hit like and subscribe, cool. If that's not your jam, thanks for just watching the video. Take care, and yeah, and if you've got any thoughts about what's on your hobby table or the list or your own Dark Angel stories, please post them in the comment section. All right, thank you and good night.